duty and quota-free access to the U.S. market granted by the African Growth and Opportunity Act aims to boost trade and investment between sub-Saharan Africa and the U.S. Tonight, the Harvard University Alumni Association of South Africa hosts a panel discussion themed Unlocking Africa's Market Potential. And I got to speak to a variety of expert guests within the various sectors of South Africa on what's their thought in terms of improving the agreement itself to benefit the African continent, the South African economy, and entrepreneurs.
I am here today in the capacity of President of the Harvard University Alumni Association of South Africa. I still get tongue-tied.
Naomi, you've been the president of the Harvard University Association of South Africa for 6 months now. Can you please just share your role within the organization itself and how has your journey been thus far?
Absolutely. So my role is really to bring people together, for us to be able to collaborate and to build a community. Coming from Harvard, we have a responsibility to our communities. It does not come lightly because a privilege to study at an institution like Harvard comes with that responsibility. So for me, is how do we find those moments where we can either give back to the community. We have had 3, this is our 3rd event for the year. The second one was to support Nelson Mandela Day. So we really try and find those opportunities that we could give back to society.
Tonight's theme is around trade, investments and partnerships between the US markets and sub-Saharan Africa. And just looking at the African Growth and Opportunities Act, what is the role of the HAUSA organization with regards to this agreement and just helping to foster and boost such partnerships here in South Africa?
So AGOA is legislation. It's a piece of law. But how do we bring that down to the community? How do we bring that and make it real for business society, for entrepreneurs, for people on the continent? And for me, I feel that is the reason why we have these dialogues. As the Alumni Association in South Africa, we collaborate, we form partnerships, and we engage on larger topics than really just ourselves.
I think it's really also important that we expand our thinking, as I said, beyond the politics, but into just what can we use AGOA for as Africans?
Thabo, you have 21 years experience, probably more, within the field of investments and financial services and entrepreneurship as well. Can you just share the AGOA agreement itself and its impact within the African continent?
No, thanks, Nontobeko. So, the one of the biggest things about AGOA is that it's almost a policy gift to the African continent by the US government. So they've said you can bring your stuff across without any tariffs, without any charges, as it were, right? So it's a great gift for us to use as Africans and for us to think about how we can use it to our advantage. So one of the things you look at, our automobile industry, you look at our agricultural sector that's coming from the Western Cape, from various parts of the country that are exporting goods into America at no duties, and I think that's been one of the biggest advantages we've gained out of it. And I think America has also gained a lot from it as well, because they also get a benefit from bringing goods across from the US into Africa. And it's something we need to stress and talk about.
I think the most interesting debate from tonight is that there were some growing concerns that this is not necessarily a symbiotic relationship between the US and sub-Saharan Africa, but one is benefiting more than the other. What is your perspective on that, and what key areas can we look at in terms of improving when it comes to AGOA itself?
Look, I think we need to think about expanding the sectors. So the way I look at them, AGOA is a 2000 policy. Is 24, is going to 25 years old, right? Next year when you get to 2025. And it includes sectors that are very archaic, if you know what I mean, agriculture, automobiles. And I think we can look to expand AGOA to include issues such as the digital economy. So how do we bring on tech entrepreneurship into AGOA? Are those discussions being opened? How do we talk about lobbying in the AGOA context? Speaking about South Africa, can South Africa lobby on its own for just AGOA, which we can't do. You know, I mean, if you look at what South Africa's economy is smaller than a lot of states in America, right? So we need to think about how do we lobby, and you can't just land in DC and think we're gonna just lobby for the rest of the continent through AGOA. We need to get more strategic around how we can lobby with various lawmakers, Congress, etc. in America around how we can make AGOA work. So all these changes as AGOA gets to its kind of anniversary, you know, and it extends itself to 25 years, then let's think about how we can use these tactics and negotiation skills to make sure that it benefits Africa as much as it's benefiting America.
Those manufacturing concerns or products in those respective countries needs really to be sound in order for those countries to take advantage, of the relaxed tariffs.
Lungile, thank you very much for joining us. You know, in the discussion, the panel discussion, you really touched on the need for funds when it comes to infrastructure development. Can you just touch on that once more?
Thanks for having me. For us to exploit the opportunities that are offered by AGOA, I think we often are spoiled in South Africa. We are quite fairly developed from key infrastructure perspective. Yes, there are many areas of improvement, but various parts of the continent are still struggling. Energy security, transport and logistics are key infrastructure that are still really lacking in some countries. And that creates an enabling environment for industries to develop, to localize the manufacturing of key products that are part of the qualifying products under AGOA. So really attracting the right capital flows to really channel that towards developing that key infrastructures for those countries that require is actually quite key. That creates an enabling environment for those countries to really take advantage, of the relaxation of the tariffs that are offered by AGOA as well. So I think for me that's really the key pertinent areas that countries need to really focus on to really see themselves really benefiting and optimizing what they can get out of the AGOA. Thanks.
What are some of the opportunities that SMEs can really look forward to that they could really take up space in?
So I think for our larger industrial companies, I think it's quite key for them as well to, from an economic development standpoint, it's quite key for them to really focus on how do they impact the downstream industries, how do they incorporate and are inclusive in their growth in terms of incorporating SMEs that have niches in certain aspects that are key to the manufacturing process. Those SMEs can really benefit from the volumes, that can be offered from the opportunities of those larger corporations. So in that, we're not leaving other entities behind in the growth opportunities that are offered by agreements of this nature as well. And also I think we have a social responsibility, organizations have a social responsibility in ensuring that they leave no one behind in terms of their efforts in their growth as well as their growth trajectory in other countries outside of South Africa.
An insightful and a thought-provoking panel discussion indeed. I think the key takeaway from tonight is that there's a lot of room for improvement and a lot of space to create innovative and practical solutions when it comes to improving the African Growth and Opportunity Act, especially for entrepreneurs and for the future. Until next time, that's it from me. Stay tuned for more business content on BusinessDay TV.